right, welcome to the new JFK show number 180. We're going to be having Don Fox, Larry Rivera, Jim Fetzer, and myself, Gary King. And I want to ask you a question real quick, Dr. Fetzer. Hold on. I want you to tell me why should someone go to Patriot Radio Books and buy this book? Talk to me.
Wow. Well, look, I've edited 4 different collections of expert studies on JFK, but the first 3, Assassination Science, 1998, Murder in Dealey Plaza, 2000, The Great Zapruder Film Hoax, 2003, have been superseded by new or complemented by new research, which you'll find in this book, which is current and up to date with the latest findings, including by Larry Rivera on The Man in the Doorway, by our findings related to the Zapruder film. This is what you want. If you're looking for a single volume on JFK, you can't beat JFK, Who, How, and Why, with 15 contributors from moonrockbooks.com.
Yes, is one of them sitting in here around? Who's that back there?
Well,
Larry?
it's fellow Larry Rivera. Yes, indeed, he's there.
Hey, tell us about your book coming up, Larry. I got like a subscriber list this long waiting on your book, man. I'm telling you. Tell us about it.
Well, I don't know. I maybe Jim can answer that. I haven't heard from Dave at all.
Well, it'll be out this year without any doubt within the next couple of months, I expect, and it's going to be a really impressive book because Larry's work is so original, so thorough and meticulous. I'm very proud to speak of it. The 4 JFK Horsemen is the title. It's very, very impressive.
It's the ultimate. I mean, man, you got all these. Oh, yeah, Larry, everyone wants to know, when are we going to get more Blender? The natives are getting restless a little bit. So when are we going to get some more Blender?
Well, actually, when Jim and I were there last November, we were taking pictures of the other side of the monument, you know, right there where Maine and Houston at the intersection there, to add to the scene. And I've already done that, and it's coming out pretty good. So it's just a matter of being able to find the time, because, you know, I'm in the process of relocating and everything. So, but yeah, it's gonna be done.
Yeah, I mean, all of Puerto Rico has been destroyed, man. You know, it's really hard to understand what you're going through right now. You know. And you're still kicking butt in jail.
Only a New Orleans site can identify with that, Gary.
I will honestly say that. I've got a water line right behind me of 14 feet. So yeah. I know what it is to have your city destroyed.
I saw that water line, by the way.
Yeah, it's still there. I won't wash it off. I'll leave it as a reminder of how things can go. So
I got to tell you, I'm very, very concerned that the disaster in Puerto Rico may have been deliberately contrived as a pilot study to see what would happen to a community if they were wiped out without any electrical grid. I do not put it past our government or the Israeli government to have undertaken this by directing those hurricanes. I had several experts on my own show talking about the fact that those were man-made phenomena, not natural. And I'm worried that was the objective.
I can tell you this much, Jim. I finally received electricity yesterday, so if you count the days.
Yeah. It's not to mention the fires in California, the mudslides in California, Houston, Texas, being completely obliterated this year. This has been one of the most active weather weapon.
Yeah. Yeah,
I tend to ascribe it to Israel, but there are others who are saying that it's our own government that's behind it, and I'm very, very troubled by that thought.
The U.S. military stated openly that they wanted to control the weather by 2020. They're way ahead of the game, and you can literally see it. And what really bothers me is using fire to get people off of their land, and also passing legislation on environmental reasons why they can't come back. You see, it's total land theft in every way. If you didn't own property in Puerto Rico, you're going to get heavy incentives to leave and move out, and you may not have any choice. You see, so it's depopulation at its finest. And all you have to do is see who divvied up what before the hurricane.
Yeah, but the problem with that area is that the mass migration going on right now, the depopulation is affecting states like Florida, who are already carrying this burden of people who are not really employable, and straining their social services and that kind of thing. So, you know, it's got, you know, two edges to that sword.
Well, that's the plan, is to flood the United States with unemployable people to wreck the economy and the society.
Could be.
It seems to be working quite well. So, yeah. All right, fellas, let's get on to some JFK. Tonight, what we're going to do, there we go. What we have is a, see, I need to hit
full screen, right.
View. Is that full screen?
View.
Oh, okay.
Bottom, full screen.
There we go. Boy, it's been a little while. And also full screen here. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take a look at just a few days before and how similar these images look to what happened in Dallas, Texas. And I'd like us to comment on it.
Coming down to the Marine Corps, there's Pierre Salinger. Presidential Secretary, Governor now is speaking to the President. Followed by Senator Engel and Congressman Van der Laan. From San Diego, Mr. President. The President just said thank you very much as we welcome him personally to San Diego. He's going to see a large part of San Diego, a large part of the population of San Diego as he proceeds out El Cajon Boulevard to State College, an estimated 250,000 persons. Hi, Lionel. And the motorcade proceeds, followed by Secret Service agents. A total of about a dozen automobiles.
There's old Kellerman right there, if you're noticing.
Yeah.
In the foreground.
Yeah.
Diego. Brought to you as a public service by.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Coming out of the Marine Corps, there's Pierre Salinger. And the motorcade proceeds, followed by Secret Service agents. A total of about a dozen automobiles. Directly behind the President's car is an automobile with Secret Service agents.
That looks like good security to me.
Which has in it some of the top newsmen, including Merriman Smith of the United Press, the senior White House correspondent, who says, "Thank you, Mr. President," to wind up the press conference. Other dignitaries, state officials, mayor, slipping right by here, and
the image froze. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I noticed several things. Number one, I can see the motorcycles in the reflection in the car is one thing, and let's see, here we go.
Getting out on El Cajon Boulevard, when the motorcade leaves the field here, it'll swing south on Pacific Highway, past the Convair plant and the airport terminal, over on Palm Avenue and onto the new Crosstown Freeway, connecting with the Rio Freeway, then north to Washington Street and over to El Cajon Boulevard.
The presidential motorcade driving right down the center of the street in our picture. It yet arrived at 52nd and El Cajon, where our first stationary camera is located. We hope to have a much steadier picture from the stationary camera, naturally, because it'll be mounted square right on the sidewalk. And that's a shot of the helicopter.
Do they have JFK out in front of this motorcade too?
No. The Escort are parallel to the limo. They're not behind.
No. I meant, is the Kennedy limousine out in front in this motorcade?
Without a lead car. Okay.
Yeah, it should be in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that the press bus or that the platform vehicle that had the
flatbed truck,
right? Yeah, was in front. That's how they took those photographs, those pictures that you can see the limo behind. That's probably
the one thing that was removed. Yeah, the press corps.
That's probably where the flatbed was, where it should have been.
Yeah, well, this high res image here, it makes real easy for me to tell which car was.
Yeah, Gary, come on.
You don't like abstract?
Is one of the helicopters that's relaying our TV signal from the mobile camera in the parade route. The police drive by quite frequently, helping the Marines keep the crowd in check. The Marines, by the way, are stationed at 54th and
29 cents a gallon?
Of the route.
Yeah.
Are stationed about every 5 or 6 feet.
29.9.
No. Keeping these people, because everybody's leaning forward, pushing to the front, knowing that the president's about to go by. The band in the background, Crawford High School band, striking up, hoping that the president will be here any moment and wanting to play some stirring march music for him. May I again point out that the picture you see is not from 54th and El Cajon. It's from a vantage point about 4 blocks west of where we are, looking west and seeing the first of the motorcade as it goes by. And that's part of the crowd lining the streets, lots of children, the Marines with their hands full. The motorcycle officer, I understand it's been instructed everybody does not get out into the street.
I didn't see any Marines on the street in Dallas there.
That's the flatbed. That's the flatbed right there. There it is.
Yeah.
That's the flatbed right there.
But I want to see if the motorcycles are on the side of the president like it's supposed to have been in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, but on the left side there, look at those Marines facing the crowd, keeping the crowd from spilling out into the street.
Yeah.
And the motorcycle was really pushing them away too.
But that's the flatbed with the photographers right there coming at you.
But look at this presidential motorcade. Has many different makes and models of cars. It sounds to me like they were setting him up to get used to that by these previous motorcades, which are improperly organized.
Yeah, but notice the flatbed truck right there on your left. That's where all the photographers are.
Yeah, that's the press. But also, what about the motorcycles that are supposed to protect him? They're not there.
They're not close to the limos, but they're at least abreast. If you project the line there, they're almost abreast of the limo.
That's it.
Everybody here is on his feet. The people are beginning to cheer. The people behind me are, of course, quite expectant.
Strange. They're very separated from the limo.
I'm excited about this occasion. First car coming by our camera at 54th and El Cajon is one of the lead cars on the motorcade. Behind it, the officers on their motorcycles with their red lights blazing. They can see.
Have y'all noticed how many times it looks almost exactly like the film that we're so used to? Like him waving like that, it's like we've seen that before.
Yeah, it looks like that might be part of the beginning of security stripping, you know? Who knows?
A part of what?
Security stripping.
Maybe so.
54 in El Cajon. They're yelling, they're waving, they've all got signs, it seems, and they're all waving their signs. The president looks fit. He's got a great big smile. He's waving to all of the people along, waving to our camera right now, getting a tremendous ovation from the crowd. He looks fine. He's got a big smile on his face. Governor Brown in the car with him, along with Lionel Van Deerlin, Senator Claire Engel. In the second car, Glenn Anderson. Attorney General.
Yeah, I don't see the motorcycle protection at all. I mean, not at all. So, I don't know. There's a Marine right in front of us and all these other ones, so I'm not sure what to think of all this.
There was a couple of motorcycles, you know, a few seconds back. I saw a couple on the left side there.
Yeah, no, and you can see, look
at they're behind the flatbed.
Yeah, you can see one right to the left.
Various White House guests.
There they are. Okay.
He will be brought.
That's more like
past helicopter number 1, which is his helicopter to be used when he flies to the Marine Corps Recruit Depot.
That's where you'd have to make the shot right there. Going down. You can do it in this city. trucks look like they're going underneath the overpass. All right, a little bit more and we'll go on.
He will be greeted by Dr. Love, the Chancellor of the State Colleges, Dr. Dumpke, the trustees of the State College system. There, we can see now through our glasses the familiar automobile which you have seen through the course of our parade with the President Kennedy, Governor Brown, and there's Senator Engel. There are the three of them. And the President looking, still talking to the people in the car. Now, there comes the familiar smile. Standing up, and the rest of that tour off the trail. Now, the official greeting.
So, anyway, I thought that was interesting to see how it was almost exactly like, hold on, like what we've seen before.
You do a stop. You do a stop share.
We can talk about it for a little bit. We'll edit this little pause out. So what do you guys think of our little film?
Frankly, it shakes me up because I expected to see vehicles in front of the presidential. I expected all the limos to be black Cadillacs. I expected to see a lot of security, and there's very, very little. I therefore am inclined to agree with Larry that we're already seeing the beginning of security stripping, so he won't be alarmed when he has such minimal security in Dallas.
The only difference here is that you see that the press on the flatbed are in the position that they were supposed to be, whereas in Dallas they were all the way back, and that should have been a clear indication right away that something was not right.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. All right, we're going to do one more. This is, to me, I think it's very interesting. It's about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And it's just a complete hit piece for the Warren Commission. And we have someone who we're a little kind of used to seeing. Hang on.
You're going to have to go back to screen share, Gary. Gary, you froze up.
Kennedy assassination, the 21st century forensic crime show treatment. It would be solved by a show like CSI in an hour. It actually showed the opposite of what the Warren Commission said. But 5 decades later, conspiracy theories thrive.
I would not want to be considered to be a believer that one person did this alone when that was impossible.
To this day, Robert Groden preaches conspiracy on the grassy knoll every weekend. He's dedicated his life to the Kennedy assassination, consulted the House Committee on Political Assassinations in the 1970s, even had small parts in Oliver Stone's film JFK. He moved to Dallas almost 20 years ago just so he could keep fighting the Warren Commission's conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Oswald could never have been convicted. That's why they had to kill him. So where do you think that the shots came from?
Well, the shots came from at least 4 different directions. This is the result of about 12 different locations of actually running the scanner.
The Kennedy assassination got the CSI treatment by Mike Haig and a team of forensic investigators. They analyzed the assassination with modern forensic tools. Using this $180,000 scanner, they created a 3D image of Dealey Plaza. And after analyzing medical and police reports, recreated the shooting scene as if they were investigating a modern murder case.
Larry, it's a joke. This is a joke.
Hey, give me half of that, Jim, and I'll do it in Blender in 2 minutes.
I know, it's ridiculous. You know, they're confirming shots from the 6th floor of the book depository.
Oh, God.
Anything other than Lee Harvey Oswald shot the president.
So what do they do with the, crazy bullet?
Fired shot. What's that?
What do they do with the crazy bullet?
You just have to pay attention here, man. This is high-tech stuff.
The first, he says, likely hit the street and disintegrated. The second shot, the so-called magic bullet, is the most controversial. It struck Kennedy in the back, exited out of his throat, passed through Texas Governor Connolly's back, wrist, and then lodged in his leg. The bullet was later found in the hospital intact, but slightly warped like a kidney bean, he said. Of course, to conspiracy theorists, this all seems totally improbable.
That magic bullet has been a source of controversy for 5 decades now. And you're saying that it could have easily happened.
Absolutely. To prove the point, Haig's team documented a simulated shooting for the PBS show Nova.
Mike Haig will test fire one round into one of the oldest ballistic test materials.
The impact is recorded with a high-speed camera.
The bullet has penetrated 36 inches. But what it is?
The nose of this bullet is undeformed. It's still perfectly round.
Haig also says the entrance wound in Kennedy's back is perfectly round, but the entrance wound in Connolly's back is not, which suggests that bullet tumbled out of Kennedy and into Connolly.
This is not magic. It actually fits pretty darn well with the physical evidence.
Then there's the gruesome third shot. Mike Haig says the shot came from a 6th floor window, struck the president's skull, then fragmented. Parts of it careening across Dealey Plaza, striking the curb and ricocheting up and hitting a third victim, a man by the name of James Haig, who suffered a minor face wound.
If you fragment the bullet like that, that is within the realm of possibility for these fragments to deflect and travel that distance to get to tip.
But today, James Haig doesn't believe that story. He thinks there was another shooter in Dealey Plaza and more than 3 shots fired.
They weren't going to mention the missed shot. So they had to go back and fit a missed shot in there. And that's when they came up with the magic bullet theory.
That the hole in Kennedy's back.
Mike Haig says he did not find any physical evidence of a second gunman or clues that show shots were fired from a second location. For Robert Groden and conspiracy theorists who still flock to the grassy knoll 5 decades later, this still isn't enough.
People come because they know something's wrong and they want to find out and see for themselves. And they come here and they look around, they see the 6th floor, and they see the angle, they know that the shots came from the front. They say, no way, it couldn't have happened that way.
You know, and Aaron, a lot of these conspiracy theorists will tell you that those police reports, those official reports, cannot be believed, that there is information missing in all of that. And if you think that after 50 years we will stop hearing about conspiracy theories, that will not happen. In fact, the CIA has given over sealed documents that are being held at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., and the plan is to release those documents in 2017. So by no means have we heard the end of this story.
Oh no, not again!
All right, so what you think about that, Larry?
Hey, I'll take a fraction of that 180 grand and show them how it's supposed to be done in Blender.
Yeah, all the people are screaming for Blender, man. I'm telling you, every few comments, they want to know when's the next Blender. So, what do you think of that, Dr. Fetzer? We had
completely pathetic, canned. Guy had a script, didn't know what he was talking about. His claims are refuted by the NBC See It Law. If you just watch the footage, it was broadcast on NBC. They described 2 wounds to JFK, a shot to the throat that was a wound of entry, just as Malcolm Perry, MD, described to the Parkland press conference 3 different times. A bullet was coming at him. It was an entry wound, and the bullet that entered his right temple and blew his brains out the back of his head, that's also in the NBC See It Now footage, attributed to Admiral George Berkeley, the president's personal physician. So if you studied just what was being broadcast on NBC that very day, you have the 2 shots from the front. Then we know, of course, he was hit in the back, 5.5 inches below the collar to the right of the spinal column. That wound had its description moved up by Gerald Ford to the base of the back of the neck in order to turn the entry wound in the throat into an exit wound. But David Manning has demonstrated it's not even anatomically possible. This shows how ignorant this fellow is. And then, of course, Jack was hit in the back of the head in the vicinity of the occipital protuberance, which is that little bump on the back of your head where if you were reclining in a tub, it would rest. He confirmed that, David did, on the basis of beveling in the Harper fragment. So there you have 4 shots to JFK right there. hitting the back 5.5 inches below the collar to the right of the spinal column, hitting the throat from in front, hitting the back of the head. He slumps forward. Jackie eases him back, is looking him right in the face when he's hitting the right temple by a fragile or exploding bullet that sets up shock waves that blow his brains out the back of his already weakened cranium, where they hit Officer Bobby Hargis riding there so hard he initially thinks he himself had been shot.
Don Fox. Or Larry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Okay, so the shot that hit James Tague, I mean, all you have to do is trace that shot back from Tague to the limo, and if you keep going, the trajectory originates right from a second-floor window in the Dell Text building.
Exactly.
I mean, if that is all you knew about the JFK assassination, if that's all you knew, right there, you'd have to say it was a conspiracy.
Absolutely. You got it right.
Also, I noticed that the reporter is standing supposedly where Tague was standing. He's standing right in the middle of Beale Plaza. Tague was almost under the tunnel there. And
that's right.
Yeah, you know, so already you see a lot of crazy stuff there. You know, if you know, we know that Douglas Weldon, who did incredible research on the shot from the front, okay, through the windshield, which later on we not only did we verify it, but we fine-tuned it to under the triple O overpass there in the corner of where Main and Commerce. I'm sorry, where Commerce goes on the opposite side of the plaza there, and that's a trajectory. If you line up the trajectory, and if you study the trajectory, and you study the way that Elm Street curves there, and the position of the limo at the point of the frontal shot, then if you talk about CSI, go do some CSI. All right, that's what I say.
Yeah. What do you think about them using this phony computerized graphic stuff, Larry? It's just disgusting.
Well, I was say before, garbage in, Don.
Garbage out. But I think this guy, I think he might be angling for a job over at NIST.
Yeah, and Langley.
Yeah.
All right, but we did have some opposition to the blatant Warren Commission backstory. So what about Robert Groden standing up for us all?
Well, I give Groden credit for what he does right.
Well, I also want to point out that Jim had remember the Sam Kinney story, Jim, about CE 399, and
yes,
how he's the one that found it in the limo completely intact, and he went and put it on the stretcher,
right?
Which is that nobody talks about. And I think that's a very important thing there. Was it his neighbor? I think you remember his neighbor. Yeah. And
his neighbor who had solemnly agreed not to discuss it until after he was dead, and the neighbor actually waited until after his wife was dead as well.
Exactly. That's how scared.
And he said Sam was the one who got the bucket of water and sponge and started to wash the blood and brains out of the back of the limo at Parkland.
Yeah. So there it is.
Joe, I love you here. I'll call you when I get off.
Yeah, they were just announcing how the documents are going to be available very soon. So that had to be about a year or so ago, something like that. So
well, no, they're talking about, you see, the JFK Records Act passed in 1992 at a 25-year expiration date. So all the documents had to be released within 25 years, which is 2017. That's why it came to be the case that this year was that release of documents. But I guarantee you we didn't get all there was, not having known how much there was to begin with. How can you tell from what's released what proportion you got? But I guarantee you they've taken the most important files and we will never see them.
Yeah, but still, despite that,
yeah,
despite that, Larry Rivera is on the scene.
A lot of good stuff. Trust me.
A lot of good stuff.
It fills out the puzzle. It starts to fill out the puzzle.
Yeah. Some nooks and crannies. I agree.
And a lot of books that were published that did not have that information now need to go and revisit that and look at it, considering that new information, because trust me, it's very important. Like this LIRING 3 that we've been talking about, in the past couple of shows.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the second half of the show. Exactly these documents and what Larry has found.
Great segue, huh, Gary?
Yeah, great segue, except I have a question, Dr. Fetzer. Why should anyone go to Patriot Radio Books and buy this book? Tell me.
Well, if you want to know what happened at Sandy Hook, which was one of the great scams on the American people of all time, it wasn't it wasn't a shooting massacre. It was a FEMA drill. The school had been abandoned by 2008. You have 13 experts there, including 6 current or retired PhD college professors, pooling their research efforts. One of them, Dr. Eowyn, for example, had published 80 articles before I edited the book and took the best of the best. I myself had already published 30. We even have the FEMA manual for the 2-day drill, which I made Appendix A. If you want to have 50 photographs of them furnishing an empty house to be the Adam Lanza home, and 50 more refurbishing the school to set it up as the stage for the event that would be the fraud perpetrated on the American people, you want that book.
Right, but Dr. Fetzer, I just had a community guidelines strike, and that video about Sandy Hook was taken down. And if it happens 2 more times, then all of our JFK shows are going to be gone.
Well, the fact is that YouTube and Facebook and Google are all working with the CIA, and they're suppressing information that provides too much information that's too revealing. For example, in that particular video, which is now available at BitChute, so you can find it at Sandy Hook Update. Tracy loses, Wolfgang wins, the deep state strikes back. Just enter the title. You can access it, and I presume download it from BitChute. Gary, we're just getting too far, too deep, exposing the whole thing from A to Z, exactly how it was done, and they don't like it.
Yeah, they're coming down hard on Sandy Hook right now as far as censorship and not only demonetizing videos, but also just out and out taking them down. See, they removed the video.
The video was removed because the Honor Network made a copyright claim that was completely fallacious. It had no substance whatsoever. The Honor Network is Lenny Posner, who pretends to be the father of Noah, where we've been able to prove that Noah was a fiction created of photographs of the fellow supposed to be his older stepbrother, Michael Wagner, when he was a child, because we prove it in the video and elsewhere. Lenny has been doing everything he can to subvert it. I'm convinced he is the party who's coming into my own blog and taking down images of Noah turning into Michael Wagner, even deleting whole blogs where we go through the evidence. It's an outrageous situation, Gary. I've had to upgrade my security to block it.
Yeah, that's that video you're talking about. That's a separate video. The one that was taken down from my site is about maybe 7 or 8, 9 months old. So they're actually going back into a backlog and removing videos. So it's getting really hard.
Which video was it, Gary?
It was called Sandy Hook Update, A New Witness.
Oh, yeah, by Jerry Lafreniere.
Yeah, that was
This is a paraplegic who used to have lunch in the Sandy Hook parking lot. That's stunning. You see, he had too much information about a huge flood that occurred in Newtown in 2007. And it's been complemented by the report of a fellow who visited a friend in a community 10 miles away. Unbeknownst to him, the friend was making a trip over to Sandy Hook to get some school desks on the cheap for his kids to use. When he got there, the school was in deplorable condition. The caretaker said it had actually been condemned. You could see watermarks several inches above the floor, moss, all kinds of scum everywhere. The caretaker explained it was loaded with asbestos and other biohazards. It was a condemned school. So, this is all nonsense that the people have been given by these agencies and the government. It's outrageous.
Yeah. Well, the video's gone regardless. So, Larry,
do we have a copy? I could have it reposted.
We have a copy, no doubt.
Okay.
Keep all this stuff.
We'll get it back up.
All right, so yeah, Larry's going to take over the big screen share. Don, what you think about all this, man?
Don.
I'm sorry, I had my stupid mute on. Sorry, guys. Well, I mean, we know these guys. There is a crackdown coming down. Okay, I mean, Facebook, Google. These are all platforms controlled by the enemy. And, you're not going to be able to hang out there for. Yeah, that's right. Get the bell ready, yeah, because that's who runs these platforms. So I know a lot of people are moving over to Gab.ai. You know, I'm on there.
Is that a new platform? Like
yeah, it's a really new. Yeah, it's kind of like a poor man's Twitter.
We'll take it.
But you can get a pro account. You can create content and post videos there. So if we get run out of YouTube, that might be, or YouTube, as it were, we may maybe we end up over there.
Oh, we're already doing it. We're already doing it.
Good, Gary. Larry.
Yeah. All right. This is a continuation of our JFK advanced studies, graduate level, if you will. And we started talking about LIRING last week, and we had identified this gentleman as Carlos Jurado del Mar. And he had been an artist, a painter, a plastic artist. He was a sculptor and everything. But he lived a very poor life in Mexico City, having not been able to sell his any of his art. And one day, trying to sell some of his paintings at an art exhibit, he meets this person. And we're just going to go back a little bit and give you a little bit more background and what happens to this guy, later on in Guatemala. We were talking about this operation of recruiting Mexican nationals to go to Cuba and report back to this Wallace B. Roughton, who we have been kicking around as to his identity. And I don't want to spoil it, for people, who are watching this, because later on we're going to examine, some of this evidence and compare. But basically, what we have already covered here, to give you a synopsis, is that this LIRING 3 project was run out of the Mexico City station, the CIA, and from I would say 1966 all the way to 1969, and their goal was to find out what was going on in Cuba and to try to counter these guerrilla movements in Central America. And we talked about the domino theory and how important it was to curtail the communist and socialist movements and the Marxism and Leninism in Central America. And obviously, because they thought that Fidel Castro was exporting his revolution to these other countries. And Guatemala seems to be the one that really jumps out, because United Fruit and these other multinationals who were exploiting the labor and the land and the monoculture concept and that kind of thing. So if Jim wants to take it over here, it's pretty short. It's not too long here.
Officially, LIRING 3's relationship with the CIA lasted from 27 May 1966 to 29 August 1969. His travels and assignments took him to several different Latin American countries: Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Panama, all the way down to Venezuela, while reporting back to Wallace Roughton. Roughton first met Carlos Jurado del Mar at an art exhibition where Jurado was exhibiting his paintings. Initially, Roughton disguised his approach as a businessman who wished to continue to do business with Cuba through back channels in Mexico, inasmuch as trade embargoes against Cuba were in place and growing in scope. As the relationship matured, however, and Jurado and Roughton became familiar with each other, the veil of secrecy was lifted, and Jurado became fully conscious of who he was really working for. Roughton shifted his attention to obtain intelligence on guerrilla operations whose proliferation needed to be held in check or halted. LIRING 4, a.k.a. Miriam Cheque del Jurado. Every Boris has his Natasha, and LIRING 3 was no different. The new documents revealed the identity of LIRING 4, who happened to be LIRING 3's wife. Miriam Cheque was Cuban Chinese and worked at the Cuban consulate well after the assassination, 1965 to 66. She met LIRING 3 while he was living in Cuba in 61 to 64. Miriam accompanied Urdo to the very first day that Rowton pitched him and was privy to all of LIRING 3's activities. The couple were easy pickings for Rowton. He described the meager conditions in which they lived, the ragged and simple clothing they were wearing, and overall lack of basic necessities which they could ill afford at the time. Wardo made ends meet by selling his art whenever he could and giving art lessons to anyone who was willing to pay a couple of pesos. Miriam was still a Cuban national and a perfect asset to go back and forth to Cuba as an informant for Rowton without drawing any undue attention. In this manner, Rowton appears to have divided their responsibilities. LIRING 3 was now to work with Central American guerrillas, and LIRING 4 was to continue to travel back and forth to Cuba and report to Rowton. He could not have planned it any better.
I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
On numerous occasions, Rowton is described in cables as being TDY, which in military parlance is known as temporary duty. Montreal.
Jim, you've been in the military. How important is that TDY, temporary duty? And what happens when one is off on one of those type of?
No, it just means a temporary assignment.
Right.
You could get additional pay, for your accommodations and whatever. You could be given a daily bonus or stipend for being on temporary duty.
But still within the framework of your duties, right? Or what you normally handle on a day-to-day basis.
Well, ordinarily, but here we're talking about, CIA, right? So,
right. So, and it's very important because these documents are full of TDYs, where Rowton is TDY all the time. And we're going to see here in a minute, how important this TDY is.
Yeah, temporary duty assignment.
Yeah.
Sounds like permanent temporary duty.
Yeah.
Montreal, Canada, Brazil, Europe, and the U.S. are but a few of the countries and cities frequented by Rowton. You mean Quebec, right? Montreal is in Quebec, right? But you meant to combine the city with Canada. He always ended up in Mexico City, however, scheduling meetings with LIRING 3 and his wife in restaurants, galleries, and other public places. As mentioned in our previous post, Rowton also paid for a safe house for Wardo.
Yeah, remember when he was using it for his paramours and everything, besides, having clandestine meetings. So, this Jurado, he is destitute almost, and then he meets Rowton. Rowton starts to employ him for, all these undercover activities, and all of a sudden he's got some money in his pocket, and he's got an apartment where he can go and do whatever he wants, though he doesn't know that apartment is bugged by the CIA.
Busted in Guatemala. Guatemala was a very important commodity for U.S. interests. In '54, the CIA promoted the ouster of democratically elected Jacobo Arbenz, who had introduced land reform, which distributed parcels among peasants on a scale never seen before in Guatemala. U.S. companies such as United Fruit were obviously calling for U.S. intervention, and the CIA was more than happy to oblige. David Atlee Phillips, a propaganda specialist, later boasted how easy it had been to drive Arbenz out of Guatemala. He would later die in exile in 1971. Mm-hmm. Now, see, this guy was a great nationalist leader. I mean, like Fidel in Cuba, like, our guy in Venezuela. Yeah. I mean, in our previous...
Allende in Chile,
Allende in Chile, absolutely.
Yeah, he died with his boots on and shooting a rifle, okay?
And a machine gun, actually. And Chavez in Venezuela.
What about Mosaddegh?
Right, going all the way back to '53 in Iran. In our previous post, we presented documents which described the cloak and dagger tactics of the Wardo-Rowton relationship. Eventually, Rowton convinced Wardo to venture into the Guatemala jungle to meet and report back on what he could find. Wardo's reports revealed a disorganized group which lacked proper leadership to effect any serious change in Guatemala's political status. After being debriefed by Rowton, here's a sample cable dated November 1968 with information provided by LIRING 3.
Yeah, I think this one's really important because here it says, number one, this is a 2-page cable, and you got some redactions like always, and here already, LIRING 3, Jurado is already in jail. And he was in jail there for 6 months because of, you know, what was going on, where he was actually a spy. And he could not logically have gained detailed insight into insurgency movement in Guatemala during incarceration. Should be incarceration. Do not believe it necessary for blank. Okay? Provide extensive and detailed briefing for preparation LIRING 3 report. I mean, like we said before, this guy was a very important asset. And for them to have dedicated so many, I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of pages to LIRING 3. And I believe this guy was a very important player in this whole arena here. Suggest following general guidelines subject to headquarters approval, which ostensibly to be impressions of LIRING 3 based on conversations with FAR leaders while in jail. LIRING 3 is, you know, reporting back to ROWEN exactly what happened in Guatemala. Now
notice all of this is to benefit American corporations who are exploiting the natural resources of this country. They could care less about freedom and democracy or distributive justice or the benefits to the country involved. They just want to exploit it, to loot it, like we're doing in Afghanistan today.
Yeah, and look at the report that LIRING 3 brings back. He's fragmentation, disorganization, competition of insurgent forces have seriously disrupted insurgent movement, which is now stagnant. I mean, that must have been music to ROWEN's ears, you know, because, hey, this is that's what he sends the LIRING 3 out there for. Okay, yes. Leadership is obviously immature and incapable of organizing an effective movement. Now, had LIRING 3 not gone to Guatemala, ROWEN would have never found out about that. You see what I'm saying? So
yes.
Yeah, so, you know, according to Rolando Cebollita, FAR funds misused by leaders in non-revolutionary ways. I wonder what that's all about, you know, drinking and...
Wine, women, song.
Yes, yes, yes.
Lots of women.
Yeah, here we say baile, botella, y baraja. Dance, bottle, and cards. Yeah. Okay. Recent FAR terrorism. Terrorists. All of a sudden, they're terrorists now, Jim. You know, they're not guerrillas. They're terrorists.
Right. Now. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist.
Yeah, I know. Okay, which for most part, ill-conceived and not part of overall strategy is weakened movement through losses from GOG. I don't know what GOG means, retaliation. GOG able to take advantage
Government of Guatemala.
Okay, there you go. Of impulsive action. Great. That's a good part of the piece of the puzzle. By far, members who failed to make adequate preparations beforehand. So, you know, this is a report that is gleaned from information brought back by Jurado. And ROWEN just debriefs him. And, you know, there it is. There's the result of Jurado's, you know, travels into Guatemala. But guess what happens? The Guatemalan government and the army becomes suspicious of this guy coming and going across the border all the time. And this is what happens next.
LIRING 3 ended up in a jail in Guatemala. The Guatemalan army arrested Eduardo and Carlos Perzavala, University of Mexico professor, on April 13, 1968. This contemporary Spanish magazine ran a full-page story on Del Mar's predicament.
This is something that I was just really surprised to find this, because it just shows how important this Carlos Jurado was, where a magazine would publish a full-page article on what was going on with Jurado being in jail in Guatemala. All right, and it's all in Spanish, but you know, I've just picked here the most important points here, and you can start there, right there. The author. The author begins by calling their incarceration a witch hunt, and actually ridicules the Guatemalan government for holding Jurado.
Oh yeah, sure. No, Larry, I hadn't seen it yet. And actually ridicules the Guatemalan government for holding Eduardo and Perzavala in the jail for 6 months. This is an example of how the Mexican media defended Eduardo and Perzavala, because they did not know the true nature of Eduardo's missions into Guatemala. Had they known that Eduardo was a spy, surely the tone of the news story would have been entirely different, if reported at all. with all that was going on, ROWEN used Wardo's predicament to blackmail Chikhe to go back to Cuba on intelligence missions. He later helped her travel to Guatemala to see her husband in jail. Wardo was released in October of '68. LIRING 3, go ahead.
Yeah, I just find that to be such a despicable act, okay, that ROWEN would use the situation with Jurado being in jail to tell Miriam Chichai, hey, okay, he's in jail, but, you know, why didn't you, let's go back to Cuba, you know, come back and bring me some more information, and we're going to see what we can do to get your husband out of Guatemala. But
he was probably extorting sex from her at the same time. LIRING 3 eventually was dismissed when he stopped contact with his agency handlers.
And I want to focus a little bit on this particular document, because if you look at Agent Cryptonym, LIRING 3, Project LIRING, LIRING, agent recruited by Wallace B. ROWEN. Now, capacity in which agent served: access agent to Cuban embassy, informant on Central American revolutionary groups and activities. I mean, that's in a nutshell. That tells you exactly what the LIRING 3 project was all about.
Yes.
Get information out of Cuba, okay, and go and get information on the Central American revolutionary groups and guerrillas, okay? The rate of pay, you know, agent dismissed by so-and-so, effective July the 1st, 1969. He was, in fact, terminated himself since he failed to initiate contact with station after being turned over to blah, blah. See, he, in effect, he said, look, I'm tired of this crap, you know, and I'm out of here. And apparently the CIA said, okay, go on your own merry way, you know, and it's over. Now, this is the good part. And again, you know, we talked a little bit about this last week, but we're going to go a little bit more into detail here, and that's the end of the presentation here. So go ahead.
But exactly who was Wallace B. ROWEN, even though some might consider it speculation? There's one individual who jumps out at us, David Atlee Phillips. His familiarity with Guatemala, Cuba, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Chile, where he studied and learned Spanish and other Latin American countries, make him a primary suspect. Let's review his rap sheet. Notice the TDY reference at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, right here. See where I have the mouse pointer, TDY, okay? It seems like every time that he's needed elsewhere, you know, this TDY pops up, and then you've got redactions, okay? It says, commendation for a DDCI for services rendered during the crisis while TDY in the redacted, okay? So,
yeah.
So there you go.
Is that it?
Yeah. Here,
no, there's a little more. Okay.
Yeah, right. Second
scroll down.
No, the second page of his biographic
profile shows a chronology of his assignments. Here's probably where we get the TDYs. Yeah.
So here's where, as you can see, 42 to 43, self-employed. He's an actor. He was an actor. Okay, very important if you're going to be a CIA officer. 43, 45, military services, U.S. Air Force. 49, 54, the South Pacific Mail. That was a newspaper in Santiago, Chile. That's where he started working on propaganda. All right. In fact, he was in Chile when they did Allende. All right. And his education, College of William and Mary, Williamsburg, drama and English. Texas Christian, University of Fort Worth, drama and English. It's all, you know, an act, Jim. It's all an act. You know, this guy was a specialist in propaganda and acting. All right. So he was trained to play a part. And people need to really pay attention to this, because it tells you what David Atlee Phillips was all about. And I want to add something that if you look at all these documents, you see a lot of redactions. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, if you place Atlee Phillips' name in there, it's sort of like it's so cohesive. You see what I mean? You know, it's like something is missing. Yeah. And we don't see very many documents that say David Atlee Phillips wrote this. It seems like on purpose they have completely eliminated any references to David Atlee Phillips. All right. Now, this ROWEN thing, you know, it just jumps out at me. You know, I don't know why I have this premonition here, but, you know, people might say, hey, you're reaching or whatever, you know, but, you know, the circumstantial evidence is just.
Well, but look, Larry, I mean, when E. Howard Hunt enumerated the chain of command for the assassination of JFK. It was from Lyndon Johnson to Cord Meyer to David Atlee Phillips.
There you go.
He was in charge of Western Hemisphere for the CIA. He was a very big gun within the agency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look at the assignments here over the years, starting there in 52, 53, contract agent, contract in Santiago, Chile. He was there. He was there when they did Allende. All right. So, and he was there when they did our bands. He was proud of that stuff, you know? So then you've got contract employee, then April 66, paramilitary officer, DDP, ops staff. That's where you go in Guatemala. See, okay, there you go. You got Santiago and Guatemala on the right, at the right column. At the very top, you've got Santiago. That's when Allende. And then Guatemala, that was our bands. Okay? So, you know, follow, you know, connect the dots here, you know.
We have done so much bad stuff to so many countries, it's repulsive.
Yeah, I think this chronology here is just
well, okay. I'd like to make a point on that, okay? The average IQ in Guatemala is 79. Okay? They're not capable of exploiting their own natural resources. So somebody else is going to do it, you know. And those people are now flooding our country.
That's why they need the wall.
So yes, I mean if you want to add up all the
Pink Floyd's wall.
I mean we've transferred trillions of dollars to these people because they send people here to work illegally. The money goes back to their economy. They weren't capable of using these natural resources anyway. So I beg to differ with the fact that we've exploited them.
Don, it's their resources. They're entitled to exploit them or not exploit them for themselves by their own determination, not to be invaded, coerced, and manipulated by outside corporations.
Who's invading who? I mean, is there a bunch of white Americans flooding into Guatemala, or is it going the other way?
Hey,
Don, you're taking it out of historical context, if I may say so.
Well, no, I don't. I think the common perception is that Europeans have exploited other people, and I think that is completely ass backwards. Well, all these European colonies, when the Europeans left, these countries have become, quote, a shithole, unquote. And look, Haiti is a shithole. Okay, they killed all the French white people there, and after that, it's been a complete shithole. Haiti, the average IQ in Haiti is 67. In the Dominican Republic, it's 82.
All right. So where were we? Paramilitary officer.
Yeah, we were just to complete his duty assignment list. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then in April 55, paramilitary officer. August of 55, ops officer. Okay, and you see at the right now he's at headquarters. So I suppose that has to be Langley. But then again, you know, all these TDYs, you know, are like a wild card where you have this plausible deniability where he could have been anywhere. And if you look closely, if you read those cables, you're going to see that he's all over the place. Like we said earlier, Brazil. He's in Europe. He's in Montreal. You know, then you know. All over the place, Jim. So this is the profile of somebody that was really important in all this ops, especially being fluent in Spanish, an expert in propaganda, you know, and then ops officer.
Actor.
We better move forward, Larry, because the hourglass is running out.
We're almost done here. And
you better scroll down a little more because I can't read the rest of it.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to focus here on the red here. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is what coincides with the LIRING project. And right above that is chief of station, but if you look to the right column, it's been redacted. He was chief of station where? Okay?
Yeah, it's been redacted, you're right.
Yeah, Mexico City, you know, I mean, so obviously he was in Dominican Republic, we know that, so, you know, why redact that part? I know he was in Dominican Republic then in 1965, but then you have a gap there of 1966, and, you know, where was he? And then 67, 68, you know, ops officer, Cuban ops group. That's exactly what LIRING 3 was doing and LIRING 4. And he's running it out of headquarters, and then he's got all these TDYs. All right, so this is the end of this here, the peak years.
The peak years that Roughton was handling Wardo show the following entries for September 67 to December 68. Ops Officer DDT/WH/CH Cuban Ops Group was Wallace B. Roughton, David Atlee Phillips. There's certainly enough circumstantial evidence to suggest this to be the case. However, I admit it should be the subject of further investigation. And with that, Larry, put an exclamation mark because our time is done.
Got it. All right, great job, fellas. All right, any last words before we go, Jim?
No, great, good work, Larry.
Larry. All right, we'll call it a day. This is JFK number 180. We'll see you next week.
Do you think it could be Atlee Phillips? Yes or no?
Of course.
Absolutely.
You nailed it, Larry.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade.
That's what we were told. Most Americans never believed Lee Oswald was the lone gunman for excellent reasons. In fact, there were at least 6 shooters who fired from 8 to 10 shots or more who are identified here. We have, finally, the solution to the greatest murder mystery in history, laid out for the world to see, proof after proof after proof. Photos were faked, the body was changed, x-rays were altered, the home movies were fixed. 15 experts contribute to a 529-page book with 1,037 photos and diagrams in black and white and color.
Hi, this is Gary King. If you'd like JFK, who, how, and why, and would like to support the new JFK show, then go to PatriotRadioBooks.com. That's PatriotRadioBooks.com.